everyone. Welcome to the Find a Moment podcast, where we navigate the space between ideals and everyday life. We are your hosts, Gretchen Roberts and Jennifer Ford, and we look forward to finding a moment with you today.
Welcome back to our final episode in our Home for the Holidays series. We have recorded and released 4 episodes so far, and at the very end of our most recent episode, we shared a fun surprise for who our guest to wrap this series up would be. And so, Gretchen, I would love for you to introduce our special guest.
Yes, we are so thankful to have Sally Clarkson with us here today.
Oh,
Yay! Sally is joining us from Colorado, and she has just been an amazing mentor to Jennifer and I over the years. And when I think about home and when I think about, who has shaped my idea of home and kind of given me the inspiration to make home this place of refuge and beauty and to really kind of empower me and excite me about home, it has been Sally through her books and podcasts. And if you don't know, Sally authored 33 books and she hosts her own podcast, and she has had millions of downloads of her podcasts. And her Tea Time Tuesday is just amazing too. She has also led mom conferences for over 20 years and spoke about home education, motherhood, parenting, being a woman and owning your life, and cultivating home. And most recently, she is teaching through her membership called Life with Sally. And that is a place where, if you did not get to go to her conferences over the years, she has all these wonderful talks from conferences over the years. And that is at Life with Sally. So I first found out about Sally years ago when I was looking for parenting books. And as a pediatrician, I had read a lot of child development and parenting and all those kinds of things. But as a believer, I was looking for something that was more to the heart of motherhood and parenting. And so much of what I found in Christian circles was just very authoritarian and harsh. And it really broke my heart to read so many of these books. And so I came across Sally's Mission of Motherhood. And when I read that book, I think I cried through the whole thing because it was such a representation of what was in my heart for motherhood that I could never put into words. Fast forward, the only way I can describe it is just a God orchestrated miracle that I was able to meet Sally and be mentored by her and go to leadership training at her home and help with some of her conferences, and now to be able to help with her membership site, Life with Sally. So it's been such a gift to not only read your books, but to know who you are and to see the authenticity in everything that you have written and how you have lived so faithfully, all those books that you have written and those stories that you share just come from a heart of loving the Lord, loving your children, and loving discipling other women. So we are so honored to have you here. So thank you for joining us, Sally.
I don't think I've ever had such an extended introduction. I feel like you're going to make me have to live up to a lot. And it's been a delight, a total delight to work with you over the years. And I feel like our family and life is real normal, and we're normal people who sin and forget to wash the dishes and whatever. But I feel like there are beautiful secrets to the heart of Christ, simple things that he had in mind for us when he designed us to be conductors of beauty and goodness and love and inspiration right in our own homes. And so it's just my privilege to be able to talk about those things.
I love that. So, one of the things that we talk about, Sally, is in our Find a Moment podcast, it's navigating the space between ideals and everyday life.
Mhm.
And so we've talked about home and kind of our ideals for home and then how that meets with everyday life. And do you have some thoughts on kind of ideals of home and then what that looks like in everyday life?
Well, as a matter of fact, today on my what I was sharing on my Instagram and in my blog is about that. And it's kind of one of my friends and I put together a piece of material that talked about how to make it through the holidays with grace. Because I think that when I look back, pots and pans are burned. You burn the favorite thing that you're making. Children fuss. Messes are made. People are sick. I mean, we idealize this holiday that will be perfection. And yet, I think that the wise, seasoned, kind of gentle-spirited woman, if she can say it will not be perfect in every way, things might happen. But what I want to pass on more than anything is the grace and the unconditional love that I have for every person who's coming to my house because they are going to encounter small failures, big failures, whatever, difficulties, unexpected consequences of life. And I want them to know that they are more important than all of those things, than all of the ideals. Ideals bring us forward, they help us create some of the beauty, and we're kind of co-creators. We look out at nature and we say, oh my goodness, God created things with dimension and color and taste and beauty and with the ability to dance and sing and eat and have pleasure. And yet there are also disasters in the world. And so I think the first part of really conducting the atmosphere in your home with beauty and grace is to know ahead of time, forewarned is forearmed, there are going to be things that are going to fall apart. And also, children are in the process of maturing. They're not mature yet. I'm still waiting until I can have a year when I don't sin or when I'm not petty. It hasn't happened yet. So to have that expectation of my children would be wrong. But I have matured. I have learned grace. I have seen God bring the love of our family alive in the hearts of each of our children. And so to focus on what matters instead of on the details is really important. Develop your ideals, but then hold them loosely and just improve in them over the years, but don't expect perfection.
I love that. So, in thinking about home and the holidays, what was life like when you had all of yours at home during the holidays?
Well, after a few years of raising my children, I was a home educator, and I finally decided that we would do nothing educationally in December. I mean by that, nothing formal. And so we always went every year to the Messiah. We would find out where the best production of the Messiah was. Sometimes we would go to the Nutcracker. I would always buy my children sweatshirts, that was back in the day, and give them puff paints and
Oh.
stickers. And so each of them designed a Christmas sweatshirt that they would wear all through the holidays. And we had, I think I have probably 100 books, Christmas books.
Mm.
And so we would read two or three a day, and then go to the next one and then go to the next one. And we had regular kind of meetings under the Christmas tree. We would always have a big Christmas tree and lights all through the house. And we would have hot chocolate and sit under the Christmas tree and talk about memories, or each of the kids could bring a story or, whatever they wanted to do. But I think that the most important aspect of all ideals through all of the seasons is that our heart is to encourage, to affirm, to validate, and to inspire our children's hearts. And so, no matter what we were doing, I was there with words that I had planned, that I practiced to affirm them. I'm so grateful that you're my son. Maybe you're like the drummer boy. Maybe you'll make beautiful music the rest of your life. Or, you make the most, you're the cook quintessential. And I think when you make the we have what they're called Russian tea cakes to other people, but we call them snowballs in our family. And but I think that the important part of legacy is to leave a string of messages that go deeply into their psyche that will speak to them the rest of their lives. You are precious. You are a treasure. You are important to me, and I'm so glad we get to share this moment.
That reminds me of your book, Giving Your Words, and just remembering the importance of those words and speaking that to your children. How do you feel like you prepared your heart during that season? Like what sustained you to have those words and to have that insight in the moments?
I was thinking today, and this may seem really old and people repeat it too much, but I was realizing that I was actually listening while I was washing dishes to Jonathan Toomey, the man who plays Jesus in The Chosen, and it's sparked in me a thought. But I think that so many times we need to remember that God, through the Holy Spirit, is stirring up beauty and creativity, and He's touching hearts and He's inspiring. And the key to me having an attitude was to have spent time with the Lord, was to have pondered the Jesus who came to not as an important person, but as a common man to identify and love everyone. The Jesus who held children in His arms and kissed them and blessed them, and who washed the disciples' feet, and who created meals in the midst of discipling, his fish in the sea. And so the more I would fill my mind with the heart of Christ, to actually think that on Jesus's birthday, God created a chorus of angels to sing and celebrate. And so the more I would fill my mind with the heart of Christ and say, Holy Spirit, how would you work through me today? How would you dance through my life? Because God is really the source of the sparkle of life in our homes.
Mm.
The Holy Spirit is the source of intelligence and truth and righteousness and creativity. And so I think it was really important for me every day, and obviously not every day, but most every day, to be able to get up early and to say, what is most important today? Is it getting all of my lists done? Is it having the kids? I remember when sweet little Nathan, who's my 6'4" guy now, but I was trying to make a bunch of cookies for all these friends. And so I had trays out, and I lived in a really small house at that point. And I had given the kids some chocolate pretzels, so, to dip the pretzels into the chocolate. Then I had turned around to the oven to scoop out some of the sugar cookies we'd made. And when I looked back, Nathan had taken his fingers and he had painted his whole face, his whole neck, his whole shirt, his everything with the chocolate. He thought it would be fun to be a chocolate baby. He's 3 years old. And I mean, at that moment, what I wanted to say was, that, that was somebody's cookies that you just destroyed. I can't believe you did that, don't you? I mean, that's what I wanted to say.
Mm.
But when you spend time with the Lord and say, God, let me be a real reflection of
Mm.
light and beauty and goodness today. And so I did have to use self-control, I must admit. But it's again ideals versus reality. And the more I knew that it was God's desire, He was going to use me as an instrument of inspiration and of truth and of goodness, and that if that my children were reading the Jesus that I lived out in my life, then I had an accountability. God would say, "Tut tut, Sally, this is your opportunity to hug him and kiss him and say you're the cutest chocolate bunny I've ever seen."
Oh, I
I'm
love
sure I didn't quite
that.
say that. I would like to remember that I said that, but I'm sure I didn't quite say that. Oh,
Oh, I love that perspective. I know a lot of our listeners, and probably Jennifer and I too, have come from places of maybe hurt or disappointment, and the holidays can bring up memories of maybe a childhood that we didn't have, or,
right, right.
those kind of things. What would you say to moms who are trying to kind of change their legacy and kind of start anew
Hmm.
and heal
Um,
from those hurts?
yeah, I think that those hurts must be dealt with. In other words, your story becomes your platform. And
Mm.
so when I look back on my own life with some of the hurts that I had and words of that had injured me over the years, I thought, how can I use my situation to have compassion and sympathy on other people who didn't have the idyllic, perfect Christmas? And it makes it, I know that's funny, but to make it meaningful helped me
Mhm.
that because I had said, God, I'm your girl, teach me what you want me to know. And he would say, this has made you a person of sympathy and compassion and humility. Your failures, your difficulties can open the windows of time. Look for people that you might encourage. The other thing is radical acceptance. I know that's a funny thing. It's a kind of a new psychological term in the past few years. We have we only have one story. It's our own personal story, and we need to bring light and beauty and goodness in the story. Now, I can give an example right now. I have I spent my whole life getting close to my children. I love my children. They're my best friends in so many ways. I could talk about that. But my children, unfortunately, listened to me, and they went all over the world. They- Three of them and all of my grandchildren live in the UK, and Nathan and Keelia live in New York City, where they're actors and film producers and all that. And so that means that we've been mostly by ourselves every Thanksgiving of our whole lives because we did not have close family relationships in that way. And so Clay and I will be totally alone this Thanksgiving. And in my heart, I'm kind of like, oh, all the years that I served and gave and made delicious food, and where are they? And yet, so we're making some creative plans to enjoy it. But I think the reality is that most all of us have disappointments or injuries in our lives. And one of the things I've done is I always make plans to make my December special for me. Clay and I have a special little restaurant that we love to go to. We're gonna do that. I always have two or three women that I say, let's go out and celebrate us. And so I go out and have a lengthy coffee. When I was in London recently, I took Joy to the most fun, elegant, formal tea shop or tea hotel that I could find. And we spent hours and sipped slowly and drank everything. And I said, I have this moment to be with you, and I want to celebrate your life.
Mm.
And so I think that taking responsibility for some of my own happiness and giving people context, I didn't, some of the injuries that I felt, I have to decide weren't intentional. They were from a lack of training, a lack of understanding of the people that gave me those messages. But I can be a light giver and a celebrator, and I love to dance through life. And so I do plan really fun things for myself with some of my favorite people so that I will have good memories to look back upon.
Mm. I think you are one of the first people who really taught me about living a sustainable life. And I remember, you say, pick three things that you can do to take care of yourself. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so I love that we don't have to be, the woe is me martyr in our story, that we can
Mhm.
take that initiative and say, I'm going to take responsibility for my happiness in this season. I really love that. What is it like now seeing your children with your grandchildren and the holidays and that kind of moment?
Most people who know me know this that I was in London because my last child, Joy, said, Mama, could you come for 10 days just for me?
Mm.
And so we spent 10 days together, which we never get to. Sometimes there's so many grandchildren and things happening. And then Sarah was 2 weeks overdue with her fifth child. And so I, of course, had thought that if I was there, that I would get to be able to see the baby. Well, of course, the day before my plane left from London, she called and said, he's here.
Oh my
So
goodness.
so I had to run. I had to finish packing. I had to run and catch a subway to a train to Oxford, a taxi from Oxford to her house. This is, I didn't have a lot of time before the next day.
Oh my.
And so I got to go see her with her precious little 11-pound baby boy. But the treasure was seeing all of the children. She has 4 children under, his name is Jack, or over Jack, and they're 7, 5, 3, and 2.
Wow.
And just to see them crawling on that bed and each of them holding him, kissing him
Oh,
on the head, loving them in the way that we always told our children, this is your special club. These are your friends forever. And they're going to be so blessed to have you as a big sister or a big brother. And it was just so precious. It was like deja vu because
mm,
you don't think that your children are remembering everything you did, especially not when they were babies. But to see Sarah implementing a lot of what was in our lives is just a total heartfelt, deep satisfaction. So it is lots of fun. It's really fun. It was also happened to be the Halloween, and then the next day is the All Saints Day. And so one of the little boys came to me and had on a lion outfit, and I said, "Oh," I said, "are you Aslan? Are you the hero of Aslan?" He said, "No, I'm the Lion of Judah."
oh,
And I thought, okay, for a 5-year-old to tell me the story of the Lion of Judah, it
wow.
was just one of those moments when you go, "Oh my goodness, there is a lot of health and goodness going on here."
Oh, that is so
It's definitely not
great.
what I was expecting.
Right.
But he knew exactly who it was. So,
You mentioned Nathan and kind of your out of the box boy. And do you have any advice for mamas who maybe have some out of the box children or out of the box family members and how we can navigate the holidays with
you
an out
know,
of the box child?
I think that for all children, actually, hormonal teenagers or tooth hurting 2-year-olds, their
Yeah.
teeth are coming in. I think that we have to give up our expectations. You need to identify your expectations and then give them up because are, especially out of the box kids, they are not going to live by what we would consider normal expectations. They're in process, they're growing from immaturity to maturity, and they have special ways that their brain fires.
Mm.
And there is no amount of control or force, especially not force, especially not harshness, that will, they are who they are. God made them that way. And what they need most of all from us is grace and acceptance, unconditional acceptance. And we need to stop trying to find formulas that if I just get the right formula, then I can control this child. Well, none of us can be controlled. We all have independent spirits and personalities. When I look back, the Lord just continuously, and probably in reaction to some things in my own family, I knew that no matter what, that love was what healed, love was what brought progression and maturity. I think that if you decide that I'm going to be patient, you might even need to write it down in a journal. I'm
Mm.
going to be gentle. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to control the way that I look at my child. I'm going to control the words that I say because these all of these times are developmental times for who they will become as an adult.
Mm.
And I have several out of the box kids actually, but I said the introverts can stay introverted and not tell anybody if they don't want to. But all, especially Nathan, but several of my children have said, it was because I knew that no matter what I did or how I failed, you are going to be there to love me and to welcome me. And I think that unconditional love is a healer and it gives progress to people who are struggling.
Oh, wow. That is,
Sally, one of the things that we've talked about too, the expectations and ideals, you just used the word expectations, talking about, especially for your out of the box children, I have one too. One of the things we've discussed on some of our episodes is this idea of what is the source of our ideals and how what have we allowed to kind of infiltrate the formation of our ideals and our
Mhm.
expectations. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you realize, I know I have, but I'm wondering if you've ever experienced this realization that I'm holding something as an ideal that is not from the Lord.
And it's not possible.
Right, right. And so you're living in the struggle of, I've been trying to make this thing happen that's not the Lord's plan for myself, my life, my family, my children. And I think my question is, have you ever had an ideal where you thought, you know what, actually, this is not, I'm holding this in a position that it doesn't belong. This should not be an ideal. And if that's happened, how did you discover that?
Well, I found it to be kind of a lonely road to have out of the box kids because actually some of my friends and even board members or people close to me, they didn't want me to have imperfect children. I know that's a really funny thing, but there not as many people knew about some of the issues that a couple of my kids have back in the day. So that was hard for me because I was looking for other people to understand,
Mm.
and they didn't understand. I think that when you, especially because I had the four kids, when you see that some of your children are able to behave in a certain way with self-control or with just in normal, what we might call normal limitations, and one child is absolutely not able or expresses life so differently, I think the more, I mean, I look back now and there were just limitations that I needed to, um, to, to give up and to say, this isn't about me. This is about me giving to my child the help that they needed because one of my kids was always getting in trouble, no matter where they went, no matter what class they were in, no matter what, because they were always mouthing off. And they said, they would correct teachers and they would, call down other people. Of course, I didn't want to have to deal with that because that embarrassed me.
Mhm.
And I had to learn, okay, no, you aren't embarrassed. I mean, that's not what God wants from you. God wants you to be his gentle representative because I feel like love is kind of like watering a plant. Love is either the oxygen that children need or the watering that they're planting, whatever it is. So I feel like I grew a lot as a believer when I learned that my children, they're probably going to embarrass me on a regular basis. They might be defiant. They might they might be different than I expected them to be, but I'm exactly the mother that this child needs. God has entrusted this very different out of the box child to me. And it really helped me because I'm an out of the box person. I got in trouble for a lot of things that I did and said. And so I didn't know I was until I had an out of box child and started reading all of the issues. But I look back now and I always wish that somebody had tried to understand me. And so it helped me to know, oh, this child is emulating me. This child is me when I was a little child. So that also helped me. But it would have been a lot nicer if my friends around me had accepted the fact that I had this child and that the child had difficulties and that they were going to support me in it rather than try to correct me and say, oh no, you're just having a bad day or you're just feeling hormonal. I would think, no, this isn't just me being hormonal. This is a real issue.
Ah. Another thing that you have shared in relation to that is how you talk to your other children, to all the children. And, if God has given me this child, then he's giving you this sibling. And just that whole team mindset of your family has always been such an encouragement to me that just this acceptance and love with the siblings when they're
Mhm.
trying situations like that too. I love
Well,
that.
I think we can determine if children are bitter or
Mm,
if they're insightful. And I think that when you say, I'm sorry that your brother misbehaves, or I know this is hard for you, or whatever, if that's all you say,
hmm
and that gives them the feeling that, yeah, poor me. But when I said, God has entrusted us with this story, and you're an important part of the story. And I think you're going to be an important part of this child's life, and he's going to be an important part of your life. And I really love the way that I've seen you grow in generosity of heart and in patience. And I admire you so much, and you're such a help and encouragement to your brother.
Wow.
And it shapes a whole different expectation in the minds of your children.
Mhm. It's such a redemptive narrative instead of the the shame and guilt and all the other things that,
Shame almost is just a perfect killer. It's a poison,
right.
I think.
And it's so hard to undo that. Once that narrative is embedded in their minds,
It's
it
so
is
true.
so incredibly difficult to reverse that. And I've heard, I've heard different versions of the phrase or the idea that, for every one criticism, it takes X number of positive things to kind of
Mm.
to even that out. And I don't know what the actual ratio is, but just from experience, I can say you even mentioned like I'm going to choose to control my face. Like I even find that one of my children is so sensitive to my facial expressions, and it's because I have not, even still, that's hard. And I find
Mhm.
I'm sending messages that are being interpreted by what's happening, on my face. And even that is challenging, but it is something worth mastering and
You're
continuing to
so
revisit.
right. You are so right. And the other thing I realize is that, I mean, here I am 72 years old, and I recently remembered a hurtful thing that somebody said to me, a deeply hurtful thing. And there are some things that you don't ever forget.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important for us to really control and kind of sift through the messages that we are putting permanently in the brain patterns of our children. And it's also why we need to be willing to apologize. You know
Mm.
what, honey? I was so grumpy. I can't even believe I was that way. Can you forgive me? I appreciate the fact that you can forgive Mama because this is what I think about you. I'm so glad we can be sources of healing if we unearth, have I ever said anything? Confronted one of my children in a hotel once, and I said, "Is there anything I've done that I'm not even aware of that has hurt you
Mm.
or offended you? Because I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm not a perfect person, and I just want you to know that if I have, you can tell me."
Mm.
And the child had tears in their eyes and said, "Well, I have a lot I've been wanting to ask you forgiveness for."
Oh.
And so it actually opened a heart of things that they had been carrying that I didn't even know about.
Mm. That level of humility in relationship is so healing and so beautiful. And I think it doesn't matter how old you are. I think, even, if as, a 50-year-old, if someone comes to you and says, I'm sorry, I mean, oh, it's
But
just,
that can be healed. But it's
yes.
it's always so important to, if you can, to ask for forgiveness, and that kind of undoes the words that were there and it replaces your words of love.
Hmm. Wow. This has been so encouraging, Sally. I just want to listen to you.
Well, we're kindred spirits, aren't we?
I know. I just love everything you have to share. It just comes from such an authentic humility. I just am so thankful for you.
Mm.
One of the things, could we close with maybe a couple of your favorite Christmas recipes?
Well, these are, I mean, one of them, my children's favorite cookie after all these years they're called Russian tea cakes in most cookbooks, but we call them snowballs because instead of making them into crescent shapes, we make them into round shapes, and we eat them by the dozens. So you can look it up anywhere. But another thing that we've adopted from England is sticky toffee pudding. It
Ooh.
is the most wonderful. We have it on Christmas Day. It is caramely and hot, and you put whipped cream or ice cream with it, and it's absolutely delicious. It doesn't sound like it will be if you aren't used to cooking with dates, but
Mm.
it is absolutely amazing. And everybody that we serve it to goes, "Ah, what is this? This is wonderful. So I would say those are two
Oh,
things, as
this
well as the
sounds delicious.
potato soup that we make for shepherd's meal. But other than that,
Oh, could you tell us quickly about your shepherd's meal?
well, years ago, I said to Clay, I don't want to have to be so exhausted because we're wrapping presents, we're doing stockings, we're doing all these fun things with other family and friends that are people that were in the area, not family. And I said, we need to have a simple meal, like, to honor the shepherds. And then I don't have to have lots and lots of dishes. And so we basically turn out all the lights in the house and literally light, dozens of candles. We just decided on it's not what they ate, but we called it what they ate. And we make a really creamy, cheesy potato soup
Mm,
with herb bread and just sliced fruit and kind of think charcuterie, the type of thing where fruit and grapes and roasted nuts. And we sit in the dark and with this very simple meal, and Clay reads the shepherd's story.
mm,
And every year we talk about how amazing it is that the God who threw the stars into place was the God who came to show himself to humble, normal people, just like our family. And the funny thing is, it's my children's favorite meal. And
mm,
I think it's because of the atmosphere in which it was served.
mm.
So I have a book called The Life-Giving Table that has a lot of the traditions and the recipes in it.
Yes, we have talked about that book and Life Being Home and all of them. Oh, I love that so much. Thank you, Sally, for joining us today. And what a wonderful way to conclude our Home for the Holiday series. And we are just so thankful for you. And do you want to share where people can find you?
Mainly at sallyclarkson.com, but also I'm on my podcast is I can't think what it is. We just changed the name of it. It's Life with Sally, which is the same name as my membership, Life with Sally. I love doing podcasts. I feel like it's a fun way to connect to people all over the world. But in general, if you just type in Sally Clarkson or Sally.Clarkson or whatever, you'll find me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was so great
It's
to
so
visit
fun to
with
be as
you.
close with you. Yeah, I'll look forward to visiting with you again soon.
I can't wait.
It's
Thank
great to see you
you.
again.
Good to see you too. I hope you come with Gretchen sometime to my house.
Oh, okay. I definitely would love that.
Be really fun. That'd be really fun.
Oh, thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day.
Thank
You too.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.